Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of October 2025. I hope you're well. I'm using the Shadow Light Tarot for you today. Now, this is very interesting because I have an array of decks on my table at all times, so I usually got about 15 right, at any given time. And today, not one of them wanted to come out to talk to you, and I was like, it's a different deck. And I've got a pile of decks that I've recently unpacked from boxes, and I went through them, and it was this one that wanted to come out. So I haven't used it in about 3 years, I think. So I'm quite interested to see what it has to say. Anyway, other things to tell you. If the light isn't as good as it usually is, it's because I'm trying to limit my exposure to blue light, because I do seem to have a problem with that. And until my funky glasses come, I'm just not using the ring light anymore. We're using the power of the sun. So I'm going to try not to turn away from the camera because that darkens the screen, but won't make any difference to the cards on the table. Other things, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end via the first link in the description box below. You're looking for the link that takes you to Selfie. Alternatively, you can come over to my private community on the Circle platform, which is called the Order of the Phoenix. Over there, you can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost. So it's not just the monthly extendeds, it's also weekly energy readings. And if you move up to the higher tier, we also run classes. We're averaging about 3 a month at this point. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, by the way, the classes aren't just on tarot, they're on all sorts of things. Magic, chaos magic, all sorts of things. Very, very cool. And the people there are extraordinary. So there you go. Right, that's enough of that. Let's flip this camera around. Let me see. Got a nice, it's got the sunlight coming through the window. Let's just give these another shuffle. Don't really need to, I haven't used them in 3 years. But anyway, let's see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Virgo, please? Oh, here's the first one. We have the Two of Swords in your recent past. And then about current energy for Virgo, please. Wow. Okay, we have the Devil, but there were also a couple of other cards that turned, and I want to show them to you. I'm going to put them back. We have the Seven of Cups and we have the Hierophant, and that's very, very interesting indeed. If not just because of the structure of the cards. You see that the Devil and the Hierophant are in not dissimilar positions here. I do wonder if there's something that's kind of shaking around for you a little bit, to the extent I'm actually going to leave those 2 cards there and we're going to refer to them in a bit. Let's get what's coming towards Virgo, please, for October. Okay, we have the Ten of Cups. All right then. 9 of Swords at the bottom of the deck. It's not a comfortable energy, Virgo, but it is, I think, making a statement of how much is yours to control. Like, where is yours to control? What is yours to control? Whenever the 9 of Swords shows up, for me, it's all about how we manage our own mind, right? Or whether we're having our mind managed for us. By our nervous system, by our emotions, or, external things. It is also a loss of perspective. Right? That's fundamentally what that card talks about to me. But wherever the 9 of Swords appears, it is an invitation, in my mind at least anyway, to find that, find our priorities, right? Settle our priorities, get firm in our foundations, and work with what is ours to do rather than worrying about what is not ours to control. And I think, given that we've got the Devil showing up in the middle here, I mean, that's a really potent symbol of situations that we find ourselves in whereby our psychic energy is quite literally being drained away from us, right? I feel like this is a month where you are working out where the perspective has been lost, and finding a way to return that to you is ultimately very empowering, particularly when we see what's showing up here in October. So I realise that the black and white on the blue is a little bit difficult to see, but I'll hold the cards up to the camera so you can inspect them a little more closely. Anyway, tell me about this Two of Swords on its side, please. So we have the King of Cups, Scorpio energy right there, and the Nine of Cups reversed. Very interesting, given that we've got the Nine of Swords over here. Tell me about the Devil, please. Right, King of Wands, Eight of Swords. Oh, we're seeing a pattern here, Virgo. You've been stuck in your own head for a while. Tell me about the Ten of Cups. Oh, that slid out there. Ten of Pentacles. Interesting. And the Ace of Cups. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Virgo. This is excellent. It's really interesting because I have detected this extraordinary vibe shift. I can't even say the word. Extraordinary vibe shift for October. And I thought it was just the fire signs because I've done Leo and Sagittarius so far. You're the third sign that I've read for. But then I did the weekly energy reading for the people in the private community. And I could see it very, very clearly in that. In terms of people choosing to take their power back from wherever it's being energetically siphoned from them. And this is very, very strong for you too, Virgo. And it would make a lot of sense because South Node is in your sign at the moment, right? And I know it's been difficult and I can see how it continues to be difficult for you. Nevertheless, you're like almost 2/3 of the way through now. I mean, the nodes will shift next summer. So, you know, I say when you're going through hell, keep going because things are changing this month. It feels very, very strong to me. And they're not changing because external circumstances are just allowing you to have a bit of a rest now. They're changing because something fundamental within you is starting to shift. Is I'm not sure that Virgo really understands the power of their own mind, which is an interesting thing to say for a sign that is ruled by Mercury, right? So quite mentally heavy anyway, in terms of, you know, where the energy is focused. But when you have a sign that is ruled by Mercury and so is a little anxiety there, Virgo. Always thinking, always seeking to perfect, always trying to do things better. It's astonishing to me how easily you can tie yourself up in knots in your own head if you are not mindful of a certain predisposition toward doing that, right? So, particularly since we've got the Hierophant and the Seven of Cups here, we've got a certain degree of emotional confusion. I think that there isn't a card in the tarot that is specifically related to Neptune, but if there was one, I would feel like this would be a Neptunian card, even though it's Scorpio. Because it's like it's things that are distorted and illusory, yeah? And in the field of how we feel about things, it comes down to being completely uncertain about what we feel about anything. And then we have the Hierophant, which is your sister Earth sign of Taurus, where we've got the idea of things that are very fixed, very rigid, that have stood for a long time, but we've also got a certain dogmatic approach to things as well. And I feel like part of what is deconstructing here, because you are choosing to deconstruct it, Virgo, is the rigid mindset that you've been working with, as goes the way that you perceive reality, I think. I think it's as fundamental as that, Virgo. And there may well be situations in your life that you're looking at and it's kind of like they're rigid, they're stuck, I can't change it, I don't know what to do. But these are reflections of what is outside of you, of a way that things are going on inside of you rather than necessarily the truth of the matter, right? And we see this with the Eight of Swords for sure. Now, where am I going to put... I'm going to put these here because I think I've said everything that I need to say about those. But let's get some kind of chronology in here and work from over here. So this is recent past and we've got the Two of Swords, which I think is quite powerful in the way that it's choosing to show up in its sideways state. Now, some people give me shit for reading cards sideways, but like either everything that happens at the table is part of the reading or it's not. And in my case, I feel like it is. So when cards show up sideways, such as this, we either have a snapshot where we're catching the energy moving from here to here, right? And it's kind of moved into a state where it's not quite as strong as it was, but it is not yet in a state of full revelation. Or we have a situation whereby this energy is kind of turning up, but it's not yet active, right? It's there, it's ready for you to tap into, but it's not quite been activated yet. In your case, I think it's the former. I think it is the fact that things that you have not been able to see, which is what the Two of Swords says to me, because of this kind of psychological screening that our subconscious will do, where we quite literally don't see things sometimes. It's turning it around so that those things are revealed. Not quite there yet, not quite in a full state of full revelation, like I said, but something is starting to move. Something has started to unpick itself inside your head. Not such that it's given you full answers yet, but at least that it's moving in the right direction. And I'm actually really pleased to see that we have the King of Cups showing up there next to it. And like I said, it represents Scorpio energy. And I think we just had Mars move into Scorpio. I don't know if that's particularly relevant to you or not, but the King of Cups is about emotional maturation, right? It's about being able to act in a way that is emotionally regulated. It's got all of your shit together. Now, the fact that the King of Cups is looking at the Nine of Cups, and the Nine of Cups is itself reversed right here, feels like there's something that feels almost like intuition, or something that's been dropped into your head that is showing you that you're not nearly as happy as you would like to be, and that maybe there are internal reasons why that is happening, rather than the stuff outside of you really frustrating you and that being the thing that is causing the issue, right? It sounds like a very subtle difference, but it can make all of the difference. When the Nine of Cups is reversed, rather than the good management of our emotions that we would like to see when we see it that way round, what we've got is actually the emotions are kind of all over the place. They're running all over the place. We get that borne out again by this Seven of Cups right here. And that, whether it's a chicken or an egg situation, as we have here between these two nines, so two cards that are indicating management of our emotional resources and mental resources, whether this is causing this or this is causing this, or whether you are stuck in a cycle of these two things, feeding each other all of the time, there is something about this cycle that is being interrupted, which I like very much. We have the Judgment card underneath there, and I think that that's a really potent fucking symbol to be showing up in your reading too, because it puts a lot of emphasis on your choices. Not just, whether you choose between A and B, but the way that you choose to show up, the way that you choose to think, the way that you choose to feel. It's like you don't have to be subject to your emotions. Like, they don't get to make the decisions about things. You don't actually need to be subject to your thoughts either, because you are something that exists beyond both of those. So when we see the Nine of Cups reversed, not only do we have what feels like emotional dysregulation, but we also have this sense that there are things that are within your power that are not seen. Like, they're just not seen by you at the moment. The penny is starting to drop somewhere, for sure. And, in terms of the nodal placement, with the South Node being in your sign at the moment, like, this is the exact kind of process that we would expect to see. It's a highly spiritual place, the South Node, because we have so much of this balancing going on, right? There are things being released, there are things being retained because they are useful, but the process of working through these is tiring, right? Ultimately empowering, but it is very draining. So this level of drain that you have felt, where something's starting to tick in your head, right? All of this furious mental energy that you have, and it's saying, oh, something here. It's nothing to do with what's going on out there. It's something that's going on in here instead. And then we come into your current energy. Now, again, we have two sideways presenting cards, so, same rules apply as we were talking about with the Two of Swords there. I feel like these are on the turn. I think they're turning separately. But what we have is a kind of battle that you are having in the moment right now, without being quite sure where the edges of it are. And I think it's always difficult when you are fighting your own internal demons to know what that looks like, because we've spent so long not looking at them, you know. The kind of broad arc of the sort of thing that I'm talking about here very much falls into the auspices of shadow work, and it's quite interesting that it should be the Shadow and Light Tarot that after 3 years has decided that it wants to come out for you. And then we have, you know, imagery like the Devil, like the Eight of Swords, like the Nine of Swords, like the Two of Swords. I mean, these are all giving a message, and the message is around what is so fixed with you, right? And so, you know, just plucking things out of air, it would be things like perfectionism. It would be things like tying yourself up in mental knots. It would be things about not accepting parts of yourself, you know, completely dispelling them. Because with the North Node being in Pisces, which is your opposite sign, you know, there is a lot of energy into the idea of forgiveness, acceptance, compassion, allowing oneself to actually feel, because it could be that what we've got going on here is a dogmatic and rigid refusal to feel the things that you have spent so long ignoring. Being like, no, my perfectionism's fine. I just, you know, it's just attention to detail, without really thinking about how fucking debilitating that can be. I have my Saturn in Virgo, I have my Jupiter in Virgo. I feel like I'm speaking from a place of some experience when I talk about this, and I'm not teaching you to suck eggs, Virgo, because you understand this a lot better than I do. But at the same time, I think that there is a pain here, and where it stems from is going to be different for each of you. In all likelihood, like, this is absolutely rooted in childhood somewhere, because most of the patterns that we're trying to break in adulthood are rooted there. But the feeling of stuckness that you have here, which is it feels to me a place that you have visited very often, right? There's nothing about where you are right now that feels particularly novel. It's just the same fucking shit again. And you know at some point it will pass and that'll be fine. But there's something very different about what's going on here, because I'm looking at this Devil card, and the one symbol that is drawing my eye to it is nothing that is going on in the foreground of the card, but in fact this moon. I'm gonna get it right there. That moon there. I keep looking at the card and all I can see is the moon. My eye keeps tracking to that. Now, what does the moon represent? Well, you know, a kind of fog. Right? Things are never particularly well illuminated when they're illuminated by the moon versus by the sun, which would be your conscious awareness. So we're talking about subconscious, talking about very, very deep subconscious stuff with you. And what do we have on the Two of Swords here? We have another moon. Now, what's quite interesting about this card is that in just about every other Two of Swords that you'll ever see, ever anywhere, the woman is always facing us. Right? She has her back to the moon, she has her back to the water, she's holding those two swords, she's kind of locked in a situation. And we've got lots of that kind of imagery here, but changed, right? So she's not turning away from the water, which represents the emotion in the tarot. She's not turning away from the moon, which represents both your subconscious and your intuitive state, right? Your intuitive abilities. She's still blindfolded. But even the way that she is holding the swords now feels different. There's a different kind of body language going on in this card. We are not fixed and rigid and holding these in front of our hearts and, you know, staring at the reader. We've turned around and we are looking at the very things that the Two of Swords usually shows us that we're not seeing. Now, the blindfold is still there, like I said, but now the swords are here. It's a different kind of way of holding those. It's a different way of kind of supporting those, I guess. And the very last thing that is necessary, the very last thing that is required is the removal of the blindfold. You know, you could say there's a little bit of imbalance coming in because of the way that she's holding her hips in this position, right? She's taken it off this more rigid stance and it's turned into something else. Like, you are so close to breakthrough, Virgo. That's what these cards are saying here, because you're so close to seeing what has been fixed and rigid and kind of looking beyond the problem, beyond the stuckness, to your own subconscious, to recognize where this siphoning of psychic energy that I was talking about at the beginning has actually been occurring, right beyond all of this to over there. Like, it's a tiny little symbol on the whole card, and for me, yeah, it is. It's everything about what's going on here with this card. Now, I feel for you, and this is borne out by the way that we see this going over here, that these two cards are actually getting ready to move into this sort of position, which means we have a significant breakthrough happening for you in the current moment right now. The King of Wands is what to do. We have two kings showing up, so active energy. This is not just a passive unpicking that's going on inside of you. This is things are going to change off the back of what this emotional regulation or awareness of a lack of emotional regulation, plus the energy of the King of Wands saying, well, what am I going to do about it? Because I'm going to do things differently after this. Essentially acting as your royal guard, if you will, against the energy of the devil. The Eight of Swords, similarly, in the same way that we've talked about the Nine of Swords and we talked about the Seven of Cups and the Two of Swords, here it is the cage that we make in our own mind for ourselves. You notice that the blindfold is still present. It's not quite to the point where we're off yet. But again, like, something is fundamentally changing, because where this has been the energy that you are very familiar with, and maybe this has been going on for a little while for you, where you don't really know what to do and all of your actions appear to be ineffective, and if anything, they seem to be giving more to a fixed and rigid and slow set of circumstances. We've got to the point where these are getting ready to move into that state. So the blindfold comes off, the restrictions of the arms come off, all because of the awareness that what is going on here is emanating from the internal and not from the external. And so the question then becomes, why am I not happy? What would make me happy? What am I going to do to start to bring that sort of situation towards me in a way that has been entirely fucking absent of late? The King of Cups and the King of Wands, like all the kings, are incredibly effective allies to have when we are ready to embrace change. Now, whatever this High Priest represents for you, and I do feel like there is some aspect of your view of reality that it's talking about, and some aspect of your worldview. Like, full stop, your worldview and your place within the world. It's speaking to a rigidity around that, a dogma around that is no longer serving you and is in fact just making you feel very confused. You're confused because something is wrong. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, your emotional response to what is going on is almost like your higher self tapping on the head and going, something needs to change here, right? So I'm not concerned about the fact that these cards are showing up sideways, because they are in their own way denoting the movement that is necessary for you to create a fracture in this cycle that you've been going in around and around in for a very long time. It's growth, Virgo. It's movement. It's progression. It is a boss battle that you are going through right now. Like I said at the beginning, when you're going through hell, keep going, because you are so close to smashing this open. Why do I say that? Well, because when we get to October, here we have the Ten of Cups, the Ten of Pentacles, and the Ace of Cups. And I love this for you. I love it for one reason. Both the tens, although these are what we would call the positive tens, right? So they're culmination, they're the result of hard work and investment that has been put in over a long period of time. And also, you know, a sense of community, a sense of family, a sense of belonging, which I think is very strong in both of these cards. They are also ends. Now, I think that this is very important, Virgo, when we're dealing with something that you've been trying to hold together for the longest time, right? The rigidity, the dogmatism, the it's all happening this way and it has to happen this way. Otherwise, it's not right, it's not perfect, and then I'm going to go into self-flagellation, and it's you know, it's this constant cycle which is draining you non-stop. Here we have a realization and acceptance of what it is time to let go of, right? What it is time to allow to pass through without it tying you up in knots mentally and emotionally. And you have additionally the Ace of Cups to help you through with that. Now, the Ace of Cups for me is all about the relationship with self. And I think that that is sacred because it is a reflection of the relationship that you have with God, Source, Creator, Universe, whatever your terminology is for it. I think we're all talking about the same thing. But we also have a sense of renewal here. Right? Getting closer to something that feels supportive of your ability to be able to turn your Nine of Cups the right way up and turn, in fact, this Nine of Swords into its inverted state, so that we are getting some sort of power back in the way that these elements are working out in our life. You know, the Judgment card at the bottom of the deck is situating your consent or your withdrawal of your consent in the way that you feel and in the way that you think as incredibly fucking important. The devil will try and tell you that you have no choice, you have no options, you have no route to escape, you have no way of getting away from this feeling. The Judgment card says, yes, you fucking do. You've always had it, but you didn't know that it was there. And there's something about this month that is bringing it all. It's a continuous story. That's happening here. I mean, these are not discrete things that are just showing up in your life, Virgo. There is a story, just like pulling on a thread, right? And it kind of undoing a knot. This is what's starting over here. It's continuing in the present energy, and it's coming to some sort of fairly big conclusion for you here in October that is going to feel considerably more fucking comfortable than where you have been for a while. We've got the Page of Cups and the Moon here. Page of Cups is the willingness to go there emotionally, right? To start things anew. I think that when the Page of Cups shows up, we are embarking on a new emotional path, but we're also allowing the emotions to move through. Right? They don't define us. They're not a reflection of who we are. They are something that come and go and change with the wind, or at least they should do, you know. And if we can observe them, much as if we can observe our thoughts too, we can recognize that we are something that sits beyond both of those things. And I feel like this is the realization that you're coming to, Virgo, that the need to clamp down on things seems to be shifting this month. And with it comes a sense of completion, a sense of almost like kind of bowing out gracefully on something, allowing it to complete, because the new is already here. Right? There's no vacuum, there's no liminal space between you having done some sort of shadow work, allowed something to go, and then, you know, there's just an absence for a while. It's like something's rushing in immediately to occupy that space for you. And it feels good. It feels better than most other things that you've had anything to do with for a little while now. Because it's all about that Ace of Cups. I mean, this is absolutely fascinating, Virgo. Because like I said, this is a continuous story. This is not discrete things happening here, there and everywhere. And one of the things that I've found myself saying quite a lot in this last week, principally due to the presence of the Wheel of Fortune that just keeps, you know, coming out here, there and everywhere, is that everything that has been going on this year, not just during the eclipse seasons, which, you know, traditionally we associate with being very karmic times, everything this year has been karmic. Everything has been important. And even though it is difficult for us to grasp what that might mean, there is a bigger story that is playing out that will begin to reveal itself very, very soon. Not quite yet. But if we can hold that sense that everything that is happening right now, everything that I'm experiencing, everything that I'm feeling, everything that I'm thinking, and the subtle ways in which those are changing, if we can hold on to the idea that that is all really important and just let ourselves go through it, keep plodding through it, there will come a point, and for you it's not too far away at all, where even without the bigger picture, suddenly everything's starting to feel a lot better than it has done, you know? I haven't done enough readings for October yet to see whether this is right across the board for everyone, but certainly as 3 of 12 that you are right now, like there's a pattern forming already. October feels very, very different to the months that came before it. It feels strong, and strong in a positive way, not in an overwhelming way. And I think a lot of that is because we are choosing to take ownership of what is ours to do, what is ours to release, what is ours to control, what is not ours to control. And there's almost like a reordering going on right now of our internal spaces that feels like we can breathe for the first time in quite a long time, you know? So, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go over to the extended now. If you'd like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. Like I said at the beginning, you can do that on Selfie, or you can come over to Circle. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. But this feels really positive. And what's even better for me, Virgo, is that it's a sideways point. But I feel like you are going to start very soon to start understanding how very fucking powerful your mind is. And maybe it is in the drawing back from the detail of things just a little bit to perceive that bigger picture. Not the bigger picture, but a bigger picture. Because your mind is a superpower, but it's a superpower that's been eating itself for quite a long time. This change, this refining that's going on here will make it less of a burden for you, I think, and enabled me to start thinking about it more in superpower terms than anything else, you know. All right, so I shall leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.